Atlanta, Georgia in 1965. My family moved down to southeast Georgia to a county called Brantley County in between Waycross and Jekyll Island. I was raised down there on a farm. I grew up with my parents. My brother was 6 years older, sister was 3 years older.
But we always got along. Yeah, he was the baby of the family, so you had to kind of treat him that way a little bit.
Oh yeah, he was the baby, and he wanted to be like his big brother and sister.
He's aggravating sometimes, but he's a good kid.
It was a great life. We had a great childhood. We were some of the lucky few.
He was always an outstanding student, book-wise. He made top grades. He was very good, but he loved the sports.
Very athletic. All of us were. Well, our mom's a PE teacher. What do you expect?
So I played softball and basketball and eventually got into track.
He would run the mile, or he would run the triple jump or the long jump.
I decided I'd just run, so I trained all the time by myself in between school and work. I was able to make state and regional track meets and do well and compete well, and by my junior year I started getting some offers to possibly look at schools for running track.
And then he got the scholarship to college on track, on his running, because he really was a beautiful runner.
He was going to West Georgia College, and he was on a scholarship. And he got married while he was in college. And of course, when you get married, you know, you don't expect to have children when you're in college, but he had a baby. And there's a lot of difficulty when you're trying to go to school and you have a young wife and your child comes along. Put a lot of strain on him.
I was working for UPS at the time. They had offered me a job. They had full benefits. My wife had gotten pregnant 3 months after we gotten married. During that time I was working for them, I was training for indoor track season, plus going to school full time, plus trying to take care of her and help her adjust to the new life and being pregnant. And I was just doing too much.
He got a night job, and coming from UPS at night, he had to travel from Carrollton to Atlanta. And so coming from work one day, he was on his motorcycle at a red light, and the light changed. He started to cross, and a young man ran into him in the car. His body broke the windshield out. It went over the car onto the highway, and the truck driver jackknifed his truck across in front of his body to keep the 8 lanes of traffic from running over him. And he was in the hospital there for a while, I think just overnight or something. It wasn't real bad, believe it or not. He went back to school and went back to work at night.
I believe I had a concussion from the second wreck where I got hit by a guy that ran through that red light. And you know, it cracked my helmet, but we never really checked the helmet. I didn't know that much about it. I was a young person. I just didn't think about it. And driving back from work one night in my truck, I just blacked out.
I guess about 3 o'clock in the morning, he went to sleep. Rode off the road, wound up way down in a ravine out from Carrollton.
But he was on a narrow, curvy road, and it was icy. And he went off into a deep embankment up against a tree. It was very deep.
I passed out, ran off the road 130 feet down a ravine. I hit a tree. The engine basically had been pushed in on my lap. I wound up sideways in the truck seat with the tree literally sitting right where my left leg should be.
Guy coming to work to Atlanta, and he saw his truck sticking out way down in the ditch. And so he went to check on him, and Eric was unconscious in there. So
Right there, just a few seconds after it happened, and saw the lights and called for help and was there with him the whole time, the 2 hours it took to get him out of the truck.
I had to bring in 2 wreckers and a set of jaws of life to put inside the vehicle. They had to be careful because the way my body and the tree and the truck were wrapped around each other, it was kind of all mangled and kind of rolled in or tied in together. The way they described it was I was intertwined with the tree and the engine parts. They got me stable enough to pull me up the ravine and put me in the ambulance and take me to the hospital, where they operated on me for 12 hours straight. They actually got on the phone. They started calling all family, all the...
All I remember is them telling me Eric had been in a serious accident. They didn't know if he was going to make it.
They said just that we don't expect him to be alive when they get here.
Yeah, you just don't know what you're going to see when you walk in. If somebody's had a wreck, you don't know what kind of damage, from the head on down. You don't know if it was facial damage or, body damage. But he was just blue and he was swollen.
Because when we got there, he was alive. But the nurse was crying over him, and he looked really, he was out of it.
they just said there was no hope for him, He was unconscious when we got there.
I can picture it to this day. Very sad to see him that way.
We see a lot of injured people. I'm not sure I have ever seen before or since anything like the devastation I saw. The injury to his thigh, I compared it to a combat wound, something you might see on the battlefield or something like that. And that's kind of how I remember it. I'm not sure I've seen anything quite like that since then.
He's jerking all the time, constantly jerking. And I mean, it was like hard to handle, hard to look at.
When we realized at that point in time he needed to be at a trauma center, at that time the medical college was developing a trauma center over there, was accepting severely injured patients. And so we called over there and arranged for him to be transferred.
And they really thought that flying him over would kill him. They thought when they got him over there that there wouldn't be nothing there but a dead person.
We couldn't talk to the doctors for a long time. It took them 20 hours of surgery. They had two different teams working on him. One on the nerves and one on the bones.
We do our very best to try to save extremities. But if you look at something and, you say to yourself in your mind's eye, is this extremity ever going to be functional again? And if the answer is no, then you've got to lead the patient and the family down the path of, well, they're going to lose that extremity.
So he took care of his case. And so I asked him, I said, don't let anybody speak negative over him. I said, don't don't speak death to my son. I said, we have the power of life and death in our tongue. And I said, I believe that. I said, if you'll speak life over him, you'll have a lot better chance. And I said, we believe that, that it's possible that you could have a miracle. That we believe in miracles.
Then they came and said, we're just gonna have to take the leg off.
How far up the amputation was gonna be, they had to choose, and my wife did not want to make that choice.
I think in this case it was fairly straightforward, just because of the the shape that extremity was in. The family's not out there, they're not hanging out in the breeze making this decision by themselves. They're making it, with the physician.
And then she was going to pieces about deciding when we take the leg off. And we had prayed about it, and we all agreed. And these are the doctors. And so we stood on faith with them and with the Lord, and I held her hand and she signed. And she was shaking like a leaf.
And the amputation being so far up on it, close to his hip there, that was, I'm sure, on the top of his mind as to, okay, even if I get through this, what I'm going to be able to do, how I'm going to be able to walk, how I'm going to be able to, function.
So I brought him home as soon as I could, and we went from there. It was tough.
We took a day at a time. Sometimes it was hours at a time. Sometimes it was minutes because of the pain.
Eric was very depressed, and what was he going to do without his leg?
Every day, you see patients who just lose their will to go on.
A couple of years later, we wound up divorced and everything, but during that 2-year span, we just never could reconnect. It just didn't work.
And Wesley had to be tough with him, really. Had tough love thing.
I was his caretaker, for about a year. And I did a lot of yelling at him. I'm not gonna say I did, because he'd say, I can't. I hate that word, because you can. I think from that, he just kept pushing himself.
I was staying at our fraternity house, which was the Chi-Phi house, right behind the tennis courts at Emory University. During that time, I'd been watching the tennis players and getting to know them. I could talk to them down the hill, and sometimes I would go down there and just hang out with them a little bit. And they'd seen me playing basketball in the gym and said, if you can play basketball, you should be able to play tennis. Eventually, a couple of the guys in the tennis team and a couple of the girls in the tennis team just took me under their wings, started showing me how to play tennis. I fell in love with the game. So much so that I didn't finish my master's. I decided I'm gonna be a tennis player of all things.
And at that time, he was already playing a little bit with his crutches and getting used to that. And he said, well, I don't think I can play wheelchair tennis. He said, I move around pretty good with one leg and a crutch, he said, you know.
I didn't understand at first what he needed, you know, and so what he was doing when he had served, he had let his crutch down. And then when he served, he's got to get down and bend over and pick it up. Sometimes, you know, the ball's already back at you. So he was describing what his needs was. He said, I need something, you know, that'll stand up, that I don't have to look at, that I can reach up and grab it, you know, without bending over. So I said, well, I need to build you a crutch that'll stand up, you know. And so it came from that. I mean, it just, whatever he needed to make his life productive, I tried to develop that for him. So that's where the crutch came from, because he was determined to play tennis.
I started playing tournaments, and just, you know, little low-level tournaments to 5-level tournaments, which is a USTA rating. And then I played 3-0, and then 3-5, and then 4-0, and I worked my way up to higher levels. And I just love doubles, obviously, with one leg and a crutch. We wound up getting ranked #1 in the state of Georgia in several different brackets. We moved from like 3-0 to 3-5 to 4-0 up to 4-5, and you know, I decided that, you know, I was so in love with tennis at this point that I wanted to find out what level I could really get at if I trained full time.
Well, having given a lot of tennis lessons and being here at Jekyll Island, you never really quite know who's going to come in and want to have a tennis lesson. So when Eric comes in on crutches and says, I was a track star and I've been in an accident and I've lost my leg and I cannot run track anymore, but I believe I can still play tennis. I was flabbergasted is the best word. I just could not wrap my head around how this was going to work, because as a teaching pro, first thing I teach is footwork, 2 legs stance. We did realize he was not going to be running a bunch of balls down on the baseline. He was going to serve and follow it into the net. And it happened. It was very enjoyable as a coach. Just really happy that our paths crossed.
They can't believe it. You can hear them whispering, you can hear them, you know, talking about him and pointing at him. And
Eric was out on court 4, just behind us here at Jekyll Island Tennis Center, and the opponent comes in, and I go, you're on court 4. And the guy looks, he's like, that's who I play? The guy with the crutch? I'm like, yeah, his name's Eric Highsmith. And so they had a close match. And the guy came in, he's like, wow, that guy can play.
I did get a lot of exposure. I had news coverage, news stations would come and interview me in papers, and I had groups from in other countries that would interview me and come from their country just to interview me. Eventually, some of the sponsorships did help out financially. They were able to send me to places that they wanted me to speak, and that's how it worked out. I wound up setting my schedule up around playing tournaments, setting up a speaking engagement or an exhibition or demonstration, and getting paid for that so that I could keep playing and keep training.
Him meeting Don is so wonderful.
When I first met Don, it was like Eric's perfect match.
So here comes a guy with crutches and one leg all the way up to the hip, his leg is gone. And I'm thinking, well, what's this? I was just like, what's going on here? So I'm just really amazed. And so as soon as he's finished, he tells his story and what he's doing like with his life at that time. And part of that was just doing exhibitions and speaking. So when I learned he was speaking, I thought, what a wonderful way to get my kids motivated. Things happen, and the more we talk, the more we realize there's something to this. So really talking over the summer introduced us to our relationship without us really knowing it. Then around Thanksgiving of '93, when we got to spend more time together, we just developed that more lasting type of relationship and thought, we really do have deep feelings for each other, and maybe we should just get married. I know that sounds kind of flippant, but it's really not, because that was a very big step for both of us. And the fact that we wanted to get married right away was because I guess we had gotten to that age and we thought, you know when it's right.
I've been taking lessons from Eric since I was about 9, so like 8 or 9 years now. And yeah, he's the only coach I've ever had in my whole life. I've just loved the game ever since he taught it to me.
Oh, it was amazing that the mobility he had with only one leg, and then his strokes were amazing. I didn't think he could do that. It just motivated me to train harder. That's probably special because of all the stuff he's been through, and I never met anyone like that before. And he's taught me a lot about tennis and life.
He knows that, basically any minute could be your last, so he knows just to keep pushing, and he inspires me and everyone I'm with.
Kids love him. All the kids love him. Eric's a good teacher and a professional player. We have Ann. We have the 2 children. We have Ann's wife, But with God, we have made it through. And he has made it through.
He lost everything. from this accident. Everything has come back around. He's got his family back. He's remarried. He has his son, grandkids.
You know, Eric he's achieved a great many things. He's done a lot of motivational speaking. He's inspired so many other people.
I've never seen another one-legged tennis player. He's been all over the world. I mean, he still amazes me, you know.
Always got that destiny and in just embracing the challenges. And I would have to say, fortunate for me, the destiny included me in my little bit.
It's all I can say is his will was damn impressive, because that is not an easy feat. That is not an easy feat.
And to know what he had done with his life since then, reclaimed his life, I don't know that I have an adjective to describe it, really. So
There have been a lot of circumstances where people would just, look at Eric and I've had people just tell me it would change their entire outlook on things. And just people I don't even know. I can't even tell you even where I saw them, just at a match somewhere. There have been many. And every time there will be somebody that'll sit next to me or just look over at me and just go, that's amazing. And I'd go, yeah, it is, isn't it?
And I said, we believe that, that it's possible that you could have a miracle. That we believe in miracles.